Hey there, it's Jordan. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. It is Thursday, August 31st, the year 2023, in the United Corporations of America. I have been maybe not, I don't think I've been live this week because I have been actively all week working on my book. For those that don't know, it's moving along. Fingers crossed, I should have a publisher pretty soon. But having reported on Flint for, I guess, time is a blur, 7-8 years at this point. It's not only writing, unfortunately, it's going back through a shit ton of documents and information. On one hand, that is tedious. On the other hand, it's exciting because I keep finding more corrupt stuff that I missed the first time. So writing at the same time, further reporting, and then while writing new chapters, going back and adding stuff to old chapters. At the moment, got 14 chapters done. So at the moment, looks like this is going to be well over 20. But from what I've been told from the few select people who have read so far, it's very, very, it's a good read and worth the read. So anyway, I digress. Definitely important topic today. Obviously, the corporate media is in full swing of the 2024 election. And there's been a lot of narratives about Cornel West, which I have reported on and debunked. But I wanted to kind of get into the nitty gritty on, what's important is how many state ballots can he get on? Jill Stein, if memory serves me correct, was on almost 50, I believe 47 or 48 in 2016. And Cornel West obviously first needs to win the nomination, which wouldn't officially happen until next year. But obviously, it is a process to get on the ballot. And the Democratic Party, judging by the meltdowns that have been going on in print, on cable news, on Twitter, they seem to want to make sure he is not on all the ballots, particularly in the key states. So we're going to get into it. Joining me now is Rick Lass. He is a member of the Green Party and is working to help get Cornel on as many ballots as possible. How you doing, Rick?
Doing great, Jordan. Thanks so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll get into all the corporate media fear-mongering a little bit later. But first, just start us up. How long have you been involved with the Green Party? And tell us about the kind of nitty-gritty of getting on the ballot. People probably don't know what it entails.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. And every state's different, which makes it very difficult. I helped Jill Stein on her campaign in 2016. We were on the ballot in 45 states, and we were write-in candidates in 3 more, so 48. And 3 states don't allow write-ins and have really high signature thresholds, and we didn't quite get it done. But I think we're starting a lot earlier this time, and we have a really good chance to be on the ballot in 50 states. Right now, we're really focused on Arizona because their deadline is November, I want to say 21st, and we need 37,000 valid signatures, and we've got about 30,000, so we're well on our way. And as long as we keep up the pace we're going at now, we're going to be on the ballot in Arizona. It'll be our first really big win. Yeah, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into by state.
Does it have to be specifically signatures for Cornel West or the Green Party?
So in Arizona, we're going for a ballot line for the Green Party so that they can run candidates up and down the ballot. If we get all these signatures, we can run candidates for Senate, Congress, and all the local races and statewide legislature and things like that. So we're really pushing for that in as many states as we can. There's 11 states that you can't petition to get a ballot line for a party. So those states we're going to go just for Cornel West for president. Some states will let him list the party. Some won't even do that. They'll just list him as nonpartisan or independent.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And let's show the map while we have it. So
great.
This is the states so far that you have ballot access. So that would be the green. So in terms of swing states, because in reality, it really is running for president of 7 or 8 states, unfortunately, due to the Electoral College. but you got Wisconsin and Michigan. He's on the ballot, which is great. Not Pennsylvania yet, not Georgia yet, which has now suddenly become a swing state. Like you said, Arizona, not yet. Nevada, not yet. Florida, you are on the ballot, which is great. So talk about in each state, what is the basis? I mean, where do they come up with how many signatures? And it seems to me some of those states, they have often been moving the goalposts to a higher threshold.
Yeah, it's mixed every year. Iowa 7 years ago was 1,000 signatures, and the legislature bumped it up to 3,500 this year because apparently there's too many choices for people on the ballot in Iowa, and it confuses the voter, and they just don't know what to do when they see 4 names to have to choose from. You know, you can go to 31 flavors and you can figure out what kind of ice cream you want, but if you have 4 choices for president, it's mind-boggling apparently. But all of these rules come from state legislatures, from the number of signatures to the form of the petition. I live in New Mexico. It's a very straightforward petition. You go out, someone prints their name, signs their name, puts their address, and that's that. In other states, you have to have the circulator has to be a resident, or they have to sign an affidavit. In some states, they even have to have it notarized, and they have to swear in front of a public notary that they witnessed everything. The laws are made by state legislatures, and we've successfully challenged in the past in some states. And one of the happiest moments in my life is in Pennsylvania when the courts ruled that 25,000 signatures was unreasonable and just set it down to 5,000. So, you know, after having years and years of really struggling to get on the ballot in Pennsylvania, we were able to get Jill Stein on in 2016 with a not easy, but a much simpler threshold for that. So yeah, it's all state by state, every little thing.
I should have said on that map, the orange is in progress for those that were wondering. So you got, you know, Nevada, Arizona, Utah are in progress. Ohio in progress. What is that? Vermont.
So yeah, there's 12 states that were in progress, and there's 13 states that we can't even start till after the first of the year, which is another thing the state legislatures say. You know, in Washington, you have between, I don't have this date exactly right, forgive me, but it's like from May 5th to July 1st. That's the only time you can do petitioning. And there's 13 states like that that set certain petitioning periods. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're waiting, but we're organizing in those states too.
Now, obviously we know, I mean, I've seen it in past elections, but the most recent one that comes to mind is the Democratic Party basically committed, I mean, fraud to kick Matthew Hoh off the ballot in North Carolina. He is a veteran who ran for Senate in North Carolina. I think he doubled or almost doubled the amount of signatures he was supposed to get, but then Democrats, because a couple, you know, maybe like a couple hundred were not valid or there was some type of discrepancy, they said, you know, pox on all of them, and they temporarily got him kicked off the ballot. Have you dealt with any of those shenanigans yet, or are you waiting to see possibly if Mr. West's poll numbers go up anymore?
Well, we're fully expecting more shenanigans. I mean, in North Carolina, they actually had people calling and going door to door, asking people to unsign the petition as if that's some kind of thing. I expect we'll get, in every state, we'll get challenged for our signatures, which is why we shoot for double the number. Like I said, in Arizona, we need 37,000 valid signatures. We fully expect to turn in 70,000 just so that they can kick off a bunch and it won't affect us. Yeah, I mean, we didn't have so much of it with Jill's campaign in 2016, but I think Cornel West is much more of a known name who will definitely draw votes from not just Democrats, but from people that wouldn't vote at all. So yeah, we're expecting the dirty tricks and the legal attacks, and even if they don't succeed, they're going to tie us up with our finances, with our time spent, our energy, media. It's all going to be a lot of energy we shouldn't have to spend to just, all we're asking to do is get on the ballot to give people a chance to vote for us.
Well, I think that's a component maybe a lot of people don't realize is, yeah, I mean, when you're running in the Democratic primary, there's some of that. I know, for example, Justice Democrat candidates back in the day who were dealing with their signatures being invalidated, this and that. But in this case, I mean, the Democratic Party, and in some cases the Republican Party, if it's maybe the Libertarian candidate, they got a cartel of lawyers. And the Green Party or whatever party, doesn't.
Yeah,
so they could really try to drain resources in each state that they wanted to.
I just read that the Biden campaign has hired a ballot access counselor, as if they're going to have any trouble getting on the ballot anywhere. So clearly that counselor is not to make sure he's on the ballot. It's to try to eliminate competition through the judicial system. Instead of fighting, in the marketplace of ideas, which is what I thought we had when I was in high school. They told me that, but I guess it's not really true anymore, or maybe never was. So
no, they didn't teach us quite a lot, particularly about the truth about our history with the Native Americans. I learned the hard way at Standing Rock. I don't want to get too in the weeds and bore people, but I'd like to know what kind of is the process. I mean, when I think about getting signatures, for some things it's door to door. For other things, it's digital. I mean, how does it vary state to state? Obviously, Cornel West is a known name, but how do you go about getting the signatures?
Well, it's different, but I mean, I would say 90% of it is we send our volunteers out to public events, the county fairs, the state fairs, the farmers markets, concerts, sports events, wherever people are gathering and they're relaxed. And we just ask people, hey, do you think you should have more choices? And, do you believe in Cornel West's message? And do you think he should be on the ballot? So that if you want to vote for him, you can. It's not even a hard sell, like, will you support Cornel West next November? It's, do you think you should have the option of being able to vote for someone other than a Democrat or Republican? So we do that. We have, organizationally, we have different leads in the different states and regions, and we just try to be where people are and ask them for a chance, for democracy to work and for people to have a choice.
Mm-hmm. Have you noticed a spike since Jill Stein in terms of people interested in a third party?
I think there's a lot more people interested in a third party right now than there were. Every year that the polling has been done, more and more people say they want a third party. And I think not only that, Cornel West has a fantastic reputation. He's a very well-known scholar and civil rights activist and advocate. And I think he's really drawing people in that maybe had given up already or had never participated. So I feel very confident we're going to get on the ballot in all 50 states.
Also, can you kind of talk about the specifics of lawsuits? You said you're expecting some things. What are the kind of lawsuits that might come into play?
Well, we have two lawsuits that we've filed. One in Indiana, saying that 37,000 signatures is way too many to get for a person to just get on the ballot. And then in New York, in the last legislative session, they shortened the period of time we have to get the petitions down to 6 weeks. We need 45,000 signatures in a 6-week period, which is over 1,000 signatures a day. And like I said, we want to double that. And they also made it much harder for a political party to stay on the ballot, which we haven't discussed today. But if you are on the ballot and don't get a certain number of votes, in many states they kick you off the ballot. And under the old laws, the New York Green Party and Libertarian Party would still be on the ballot today. But because they changed the laws, both of those parties have to petition again. So we've actively put our own lawsuits out there. And like I said, we won a lawsuit in Pennsylvania a few years ago to lower the threshold. And we won a lawsuit in Oklahoma last year so that we can either get the huge amount of petitions that they require, or we can just pay a fee, which is $35,000 just to get on the ballot in Oklahoma. Unless you're a Republican or Democrat, and then they just put you on. But for the minor parties, that's a pretty significant amount of money just to have your name printed on the ballot. I can't imagine it costs them that much to add one more line to their government printed ballots.
And there's a couple states specifically, you got Arizona, Delaware, Massachusetts, and Vermont that are in motion. Can you kind of talk about what's involved in those states?
Yeah, well, Vermont's unique in that you only have to advertise town meetings and get people to come to town meetings in at least 10 towns in Vermont. And then that creates a party ballot line for that party. And in Vermont, we're actually working with the Green Mountain Peace and Justice Party, which has been around since 1970. Actually, their first candidate for governor in 1970 was Bernie Sanders. There's also a progressive party in Vermont that is considering nominating Cornel. Delaware is unique in that if we just get 0.1% of the registered voters to register in the Green Party, we'll be on the ballot. And we're very close to that right now. We need about maybe 100 more people in Delaware to register. Not really automatically, but beyond without having to petition. And the map you showed, the website's called Cornel West 4.us, for FOR, not the number, .us. And every state, if you click on it, you can see what the requirements are and what the progress is in those states. Massachusetts also has that, but the requirement's 49,000 registered Greens. And we're a long way from that, but we're encouraging people. We're really encouraging people in all states to register in the Green Party or just to register to vote. I mean, if you're not registered to vote, now's the time to do it. And almost every state now allows you to register online just by going to your Secretary of State website. I don't know if you want to click on one of those states and I can go through it. I don't remember what the other state you mentioned was, but in most of the states, we're doing petition drives, but in Vermont.
Delaware, Massachusetts.
Yeah, and Delaware and Massachusetts are two states that we can register people to vote online, and if we get enough people to do that before next summer, we'll be on the ballot without having to do a petition drive, which would be great.
And not that you're an expert on across the pond, but with these other countries that have many more parties than two, I suspect you don't have to do this to get on the ballot in each province.
Right. That's very true. We have proportional representation in almost every democracy in the country. So in Europe and Latin America, if the Green Party gets 15% of the vote, they get 15% of the seats in the Congress or Parliament or whatever they have. We have representation in government. We're part of coalition governments in 5 different countries in Europe, Netherlands, Germany. I can't think of all of them right off the top of my head. I've been more focused on the US, and same thing in Latin America. You look at Mexico's Congress, there's about a dozen Greens in the lower chamber of the Congreso in Mexico. So, it just makes sense. In the US, we say you have 2 choices. In these other countries, you get 5 or 7 or 9 parties on the ballot, and it's a lot more likely someone's going to represent your values. When you have 2 choices, we have someone working on the campaign who's from Slovakia, and I said, why should we only have 2 choices? And she said, well, that's only 1 more than we had when I was growing up in Slovakia. We only had 1 choice during an election, and it wasn't even real. So I thought that was really funny perspective from her to get. So yeah, I think if we really want to call the US a democracy, we need to move towards proportional representation for legislative bodies and ranked choice voting for single seat elections. And I watched your show last week when you were analyzing the Meet the Press interview, to put it nicely. And, it's like, I want to tell all these Democrats, Axelrod and Carville and all them, if you're so scared of having a third choice in the election, pass ranked choice voting. Every state is going to have a legislative session between now and next November, and Congress is in session. If they really are scared, all they have to do is pass ranked choice voting. And then if they're right that everyone who would vote for a Green Party candidate would vote for a Democrat instead, we'll see that when the ranked choice results come out. How many people that vote for Cornel West are going to pick Joe Biden as their second choice?
Right.
So it's the perfect solution. Instead of fear mongering and lawsuits, just pass ranked choice voting. It's that simple.
Well, they might, contrary to all the huffing and puffing on MSNBC about democracy, they might be a little worried that might actually bring out more people to vote if you pass ranked choice voting, particularly, the biggest voting bloc, non-voters. Yeah. Not to say, 100 million people would suddenly vote if you had ranked choice voting, but, might be more of a sell.
But if you had 5 or 6 viable candidates, maybe 100 million people would come vote for the first time, or for the first time in a long time.
That is a good point.
So
before we get into the politics, one more question on the ballot access part. What do you need from people? Because this is a state by state issue. So do you need volunteers in different states to help with? Do you need attorneys? What do you need?
The thing we most need is more volunteers to just get out there. Even if all you can do is print out the petition, get your friends, family, and neighbors to sign it and mail it into our state organizers, that would be a huge thing to do. And if you can spend 2 hours a week or 2 hours once a month going to, like I said, the farmers market or wherever, or getting in touch with your state party leaders, that's what we really need. We need to create a people-powered campaign. We're already doing it, but we need to, do it even more so. That's the number one thing you can do. If for whatever reason you don't like talking to strangers, but you can send a small donation, that would be very appreciated too. So Cornel's website for just for general information and donations is cornelwest24.org, and the volunteer website is cornelwest4.us. And that's the site where you showed the map that people can click. If you live in South Dakota, click on South Dakota. It'll show you how to register to vote. It'll show you who you contact if you want to get involved. All the information you need for every state. If you're in California and you're already on the ballot, can you be a green neighbor and travel to Nevada 1 week or Arizona 1 week and do some petitioning? We have as many ways we can think of to help you get involved through the 2 websites that we have right now.
And does this, I'm sure it varies state to state, but is there a decent proportion of these states that if you get on the ballot presidential, that you're therefore on the ballot, down ballot as well?
In all the states where we're petitioning for party access, which is all but 11, that would enable other people to run for office. In 11 states, there's just no way to do that. So we're only petitioning for Cornel West. And New York's one of those, New Jersey's one of those. So what it would do is in most of those 11 states, it would say Green Party. And then if Cornel gets enough votes, then in 2 years, the Green Party or whatever party he happens to be on would be able to run candidates, but not this year.
Right.
So, and I just want to point out, I am a Green Party member, but I'm actually representing Cornel West's campaign. I'm on his staff, and I'm working specifically for Cornel. And I want to see the Green Party get built during this campaign. But like I said, in Vermont, we're looking at the Green Party, the Green Mountain Peace and Justice Party. In California, we're looking for 2 endorsements, or nominations, I should say, one from the Green Party and one from the Peace and Freedom Party. In Alaska, we're forming a new party called the Aurora Party. So it's not just cut and dry Green Party. We're trying to build a multi-party coalition of the left to really unite people. A lot of the members of the DSA are helping on our petition drives. and we're seeking nominations from the Legal Marijuana Party in Minnesota and Nebraska. So we really, I think Cornel West is the biggest chance in my 30 years of doing this to really build a left coalition that will last just beyond, I mean, not just until November 2024, but beyond that. And really we can start to, unite all these movements for peace, all the social movements, all the environmental movements. There's no reason for us to be fragmented. We're all in this together against the corporate oligarchy. And that's the nice thing about Europe too, is in the Netherlands, there's a green-red coalition. The socialists and the Green Party are in government together and working together. And they don't see eye to eye on every issue, but they work together to get shit done.
Right. And by the way, after you gave that disclaimer, I should tell people, for the all the folks watching, Status Coup, as we speak, is 7 subscribers away from 150,000. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button so we could get those 7 subscribers and I could go to bed a happy man tonight. We should have been at 1 million by now, but YouTube's been fucking us ever since we started. Anyway. It's interesting you say that, because obviously I assume you kind of rode the Bernie wave, but there was a lot of people disappointed because I think a lot of people kind of, subconsciously put their stock so much in one figure, Bernie or AOC in the squad, So I kind of have looked at it, not as a journalist, but as a human. Don't put all your apples in one basket ever again. You could like certain figures like Cornel West, but no, you got to think broader. I've been telling my audience very much focus on all this union organizing, the workers' strikes, tenants unions, mutual aids. Why do you feel so confident, particularly in Cornel West? Because you've said in 30 years, you think he represents the central figure to bring all these fragmented sides together.
Well, I can't speak for Cornel, but I feel like he knows he's part of a historical movement that's been building for centuries, really, in this country. If you look at everything, he knows his past and his roots, and he knows that there will be a future that won't necessarily involve just him. And for me, that's why I am so excited about Cornel's campaign, is that I see, my perception of him as a man, understanding his place in history. And he has a huge following of people all across the spectrum. He's a theologian, he's a scholar, he's an author, he's a civil rights activist. He's been an advocate for the underprivileged his entire adult life. And that's something you just can't take lightly. He's not running for president for himself. He's running to make sure people understand the importance of the electoral element of movements. We all want to march, we all want to protest, we all want to make noise about how we're being treated unjustly. But if we don't translate that to votes, then the politicians, the elected leaders, don't take us seriously, because House of Representative candidate or House of representatives get a 2-year term. They get sworn in on January 1st, and on January 2nd, they're already thinking about their reelection. And if we're not challenging them at the ballot box, they don't have to take us seriously. When they're getting money from the 50 corporations on that wonderful flag behind you, and they're not getting challenged by anyone else, whose bidding are they gonna do? Duh. Right? So if we can't translate our anger and our angst into votes, then we're just really spinning our wheels, unfortunately. I've believed that since I first got involved in politics in 1995. I believe it today.
Gotcha. And keep those super chats coming. I'll read them at the end. Obviously, there's been a lot of chatter. I've gone through the clips. David Axelrod, James Carville, just a lot of hyperventilating. But at the end of the day, I want to show this poll because that's the one they're focusing on now. It shows that tied, basically, Trump and Biden head to head. Trump up by 2. But if you add Cornel West in, Trump +5, I actually think that's deceiving because Cornel West honestly hasn't even launched a campaign other than interviews yet. So I think it's pretty damn impressive. He's at 4%. I think that number is going to go up if he actually has a campaign. And, I don't know necessarily if that's going to be a bigger lead for Trump once Cornel West's number goes up or vice versa.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen because I actually do think Cornel West could appeal to some Republicans, not, a ton, but I think he could slice off votes from a variety of buckets. But to me, this is not going to be the narrative. If you could put it back up, Colin, to me, I think the more concerning thing is for the Democratic Party is the top part, because take Cornel West out. I mean, at no point in 2020 was Trump beating Biden head to head. For the most part, Biden was up by anywhere from 4 to 7 to 10 points. There was some polls, but mostly Rasmussen, more conservative polls that you had Trump up. So the fact of the matter is you got a 4-time indicted former president who's been disgraced every way to Sunday, who honestly, I think there's now maybe 10 to 15% of the Republican Party that has turned on him. But he's defeating the president that's supposedly presiding over a strong economy. I mean, I read this poll. If it were a head-to-head today, I would give the edge to Trump in a head-to-head election because, unfortunately, it comes down to just a couple states. I think right now Trump has a chance to take back Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Michigan would be tougher. Georgia, honestly, we cover it. But I think what the Democrats are doing in Atlanta, cutting down a forest and, being silent about murdering environmental protesters, silent about police arresting protesters and charging them with domestic terrorism might cost them Georgia, actually. What are your thoughts on the kind of narrative that the bottom is more important than the top? We shouldn't focus on that. Without Cornel West, Biden at the moment, it really is a crapshoot.
Yeah. Well, I heard there have been over 100,000 people that have signed the petition to stop Cop City, which is pretty amazing and could really help Cornel's campaign when he starts to petition, because he's very clearly opposed to Cop City. And as far as the initial question, the thing that's really misleading about these polls is they poll likely voters. And Cornel West is not going out after the likely voters. He's going to empower the people who don't vote, the disenfranchised, and the people who've given up. So to take a poll of likely voters is, that's what they do, because they don't try to get more people to vote. Like you referred to earlier, it's like they're perfectly happy knowing who the base is. So Cornel's not out there trying to get Biden's votes, right? He's out there trying to get new people involved, like I said earlier, to make people who are out there protesting but don't vote, or who just for whatever reason don't vote. That's our target, is to get people involved in the process and to realize the process matters. Biden has his voters, he's welcome to them. There's the swing, the progressive Democrats, the Bernie-crats, whatever you want to call them. And Cornel's going to make his case why he's the better person to vote for. But we're not out there trying to steal Trump's votes or steal Biden's votes. Let them earn their own votes. Meanwhile, we're going to go to the people and say, you really need to participate in this process. It affects you on a day-to-day basis, whether it's your sales tax, your property tax, your rent, your kids getting arrested, your kids being, in really unsavory situation, the education system. I mean, I don't need to go through the litany of every way that the government interferes in our lives. In some ways, it's obvious, but so these polls, I just urge everyone to take them with a grain of salt.
Right.
These are the people that always vote, that pretty much they're going to vote for Trump no matter what. They're going to vote for Biden no matter what. Let's start seeing some polls that talk to, the non-voters and say, do you think you might vote this time? If Cornel West runs, would you register to vote, and would you vote? or on the right, if the Libertarian candidate gets on the ballot in your state, would you register to vote and vote? We need a much healthier democracy than what we have right now, and that's part of what Cornel West is trying to do.
Well, I also think there's another element to it, and frankly, you're not going to really hear this on CNN's discussions, but Cornel West, from the things he has stated, part of the reason he's running Green Party, yes, he thinks the Democratic Party is kind of morally corrupt, but he also doesn't think he could get a fair shake in a Democratic primary. So maybe the Democratic Party is now, the chickens are coming home to roost if you continually rig the process, if you continually, throw your full body on the scale. Maybe candidates that, once upon a time would have run in your primary. Cornel West, I believe, supported Jesse Jackson back in the day, the Rainbow Coalition, obviously Bernie. But if you continually rig the process, or in this case, you won't even have a process of a real primary, right, what are people supposed to do? Just waste 2 years of their life? Do a vanity run? He outside of his views on the decay of the Democratic Party, he doesn't feel, or others might not feel, they have a legitimate chance to run and have a fair process in the Democratic primary.
Yep, I totally agree. And as I said before, I can't really speak on Cornel's behalf other than on ballot access issues, but it's clear from my perspective that the Democratic Party is where progressive politics goes to die. Year after year after year, we could go back, my entire lifetime of just watching the progressives get smeared and having elections get, pretty much, the whole superdelegate system within the Democratic National Convention that just lets the already existing office holders have way too much power and not people. And they claim to be the party of the people, but they're not. And it's so obvious in so many ways.
Absolutely. And can you kind of talk about just what you believe? Because I think this is now kind of, I don't know, the third or fourth cycle. You keep hearing the same thing. We got to stop fascism. We got to stop fascism. Bernie recently came out, for lack of a better word. He's said at this particular time, at this particular moment, doesn't feel we could kind of mess around with, more choices. To me, I just feel like, yeah, there is a real threat of fascism. I think the same people saying this kind of forget about the corporate fascism within the Democratic Party. But when is the fascist threat going to go away? When will it be the time? If each election, it's just not the time. It's this particular moment, or this is the most important election of our lifetime. Yep.
No, I mean, that's what they're going to continue to trot out, and I've been hearing it since 1995. It's like, oh, not yet, not yet. And here I am almost 30 years later, and I'm still being told, not yet, not yet. When I first got involved in politics, I hadn't been involved other than to vote. And it was just like, you're spoiling our election by participating in it. And I'm like, that's not what democracy means. My point of view is as equally as important as my neighbors and anyone else's. And the more participation we have, the better. Yeah, fascism's real threat. I mean, if Trump gets elected again, God knows what he'll do. He's a madman, But as you alluded to, the Democratic Party is, just as complicit in destroying our planet through their reliance on oil and gas money. I live in New Mexico. Like half of our state budget here is funded by oil and gas excise fees. So it's like drill, baby, drill. And it's Democrats, and they're totally enabling that. People who are serious about pacifism are not going to vote for Biden. The F-16s he sent to Turkey just so we could increase NATO, all the weaponry he's sending to Ukraine. The people who are pacifists don't like that. Real environmentalists are not going to vote for Biden the way he promised wind and is promoting oil and gas instead. The list goes on. People who are passionate about issues like we are are not going to vote for Biden. So if there's no Cornel West in there, they're not going to vote at all. And then we have a enfeebled democracy. So
Well, I also
it's in
think
our country. Let me just finish. It's in our country's best interest to have Cornel West on the ballot in every state, because then more people will vote. And frankly, not to cut you off, but we're not going to have candidates in every Senate race, in every congressional race, in every governor race. So people that come out specifically because they're empowered by Cornel West are going to end up voting for Democrats for Senate and Congress. It would actually help the Democratic Party to have Cornel West on the ballot in every state. But they're too blindered to see that. Sorry.
How do you think the current moment, as far as obviously UPS just won a big contract, UAW, it's all but certain. I think it's 15 days now, is going to go on strike, potentially against all three, General Motors, Ford, Stellantis. You got the airline workers are now going on strike. There's been workers in Pennsylvania that have been on strike for a while. Obviously, there's nurses in New Jersey at a big hospital on strike. We know the actors and writers have been on strike for a while. There's, I don't like using the term, but there is a strike wave that's been going on. I think the UAW in particular will be a big one, because it seems to have a more militant leadership there. As opposed to, the good old corrupt embezzlement days. What do you think in terms of kind of the connection between, it's certainly not, the 1950s, 60s, but it's better than it has been in terms of labor right now. What do you think of that connection and, Cornel's campaign?
Well, it shows definitely the power that unions and organized labor have right now, and it's great to see them exercising that power. And I would just say to people that are in those movements that, as I said earlier, the Green Party, Cornel West are the electoral arm of that movement. The Democrats, they either stand aside or give lip service to it. They shouldn't have to be on strike. The Congress and the state legislatures should be making laws that make it, guaranteed minimum wage, guaranteed benefits, guaranteed health care, all these things the Democrats have had a century to do. I mean, this labor movements are not new. And the Democratic politicians have not responded accordingly and used the power that they have. And instead, people have to go on strike. And if we get people who understand these issues elected, then we would see fewer strikes and better labor conditions and better pay and better benefits for everybody.
Absolutely. And I want to give one example, not connected to labor, but honestly, I mean, if Joe Biden would have fought, I mean, they did one decent thing, I think, which was the child tax credit. I mean, it's not a revolution, but it's real money that went to people who needed it. I don't know about the whole cutting poverty in half. I think that was more a talking point, but it definitely helped. But they said it for a year. And because you had a president that just would not use the bully pulpit against Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, it expired. So when you're running for reelection, and the main thing you could point to is, hey, we did something good for a year that could be in place permanently, but neoliberalism. So clearly, part of the problem here is, they just twist themselves into pretzels with rationalizations for why they can't do things. I actually think if that would have been put in place for a longer term, you might not have the polls currently separate from Cornel West, but just the head-to-heads. That's a concrete policy that Biden could have been running on.
Yep. And there's a very similar thing with ballot access. During COVID, many states allowed candidates to have their petition signed electronically because we were on lockdown. We could go, so in different states, you could go to the Secretary of State's website or the candidate's website, put your name on the petition, and it would count. And people got on the ballot that way. And because COVID is over, supposedly, no one's getting sick anymore, I guess, and there's no more lockdowns, almost all those states have rescinded that. And it's like our petition drive would be so much simpler if people could do that. In most states, they have electronic records. You can register to vote online. Like 98% of the signatures that come in for candidate petitions electronically are valid. And maybe 70% are valid when you're out at the mall gathering signatures. And in Arizona, if you're in the major party, you can have electronic signatures. But if you're trying to be a minor party candidate or start a new party, you can't. It's
Right.
just like, just to bring it back to the ballot access question, it's like these Democrats and Republicans are doing everything they can to make it more difficult instead of easier to have multiple choice in our elections.
Right. And by the way, not a popular thing, and the media doesn't want to talk about it. Anecdotally, my niece, 9 months old, she had COVID when she has COVID when she walked in, or when my brother took her in. The doctors basically told her, yeah, everybody here has COVID. This was like 3 days ago. All the kids coming in have COVID. I was just told hospitals near me in the Northeast right now filled with COVID. So, people are tired of it, this and that, but it exists. And separate from the health ramifications, you have a Biden White House that declared an end to the emergencies. So now you to get a test or a vaccine, you're looking at over $100. So most people aren't even going to bother with either.
That's right.
On a happier note,
breaking news.
We have
Breaking
1,000 subscribers. So thank you to the.
All right.
Holy cow, that's exciting.
That is really exciting.
I wish it was a lot more, but you got to crawl before you can walk. Occasionally, YouTube, takes its foot off our necks. But it's been a tricky road to get exposure on this channel, particularly when you're covering stuff that no one else is. But thank you to everybody who's been subscribing. We've definitely gone up in the last recent weeks, and happy you could be on for that. Last question. To me, overall, we can't constantly, be in this wave of elections and people get excited, whether it's, seems a long time ago, Bernie, but now Cornel. But then if Cornel gets screwed or he underperforms, people go back to sleep, this and that. How do you take this energy right now? Because you're seeing people kind of excited again for Cornel's run, Green Party run. Obviously, we're not going to bullshit people. It's an uphill climb to win the presidency third party these days. But I think it's very realistic. He could do better than 5%. Ross Perot got, what was it? Almost 20 million votes 30 years ago. So I don't see why Cornel West can't do a lot better than 5%. How do you take right now the energy you have for third party candidate, Cornel West in particular, and make that a long lasting thing? Because I think one of the problems was Bernie lost, and everybody's got an opinion about, him dropping out, endorsing Biden, et cetera. But he basically just left his organizing infrastructure to whittle away. I mean, at one point he had more people in his Slack than DSA had. Obviously, a lot of those people would have went away anyway because they were not happy with the insider moves he made. But you can't just have kind of these flash in the pan, exciting things around Cornel West, around Bernie, and then everybody goes away. You're going to need to build up an infrastructure that is there for the long term, whether the candidate wins, loses, does better than expected, does worse than expected, pisses you off after they exit. How do you harness this energy for a long-lasting infrastructure?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And in some ways, the infrastructure, it might not be an infrastructure so much as asking people to just act on their own and empowering them to do that by making them aware. I work on elections. It's what I'm passionate about because I think I can really make changes. But after November, our legislative session starts in January. I pick one or two issues and I follow them. This last year, it was community solar and also empowering people with tax breaks to put up solar, and communities and cities to put up solar. And even if you just follow one issue, even if you just make a few phone calls during the legislature, or maybe it's something more local than that. Do you know who your city councilor is? Do you know who your county commissioner is? It's up to each individual to find that out. And, everyone cares about something. whether it's daycare for their children, or whether it's raising the minimum wage, or whether it's environmental or pacifist issues. There's a lot of groups out there. And, the Cornel West campaign is trying to unify politically people on the left, but also there's a lot of people that care about Cornell that care about different issues. And I would just encourage everyone that's viewing this today or whenever they're viewing it, what issues really matter to you and who makes the decisions around that? Educate yourself, talk to your neighbors, get to know your neighbors and talk about things that are affecting your own little neighborhood or that you really deeply care about at a national or international level. And just take action. You don't need an infrastructure. You don't need an expert to tell you your opinion and what to do about it. You can figure that out on your own. The Cornel West campaign is going to come and go, and he may be here. He may win. He may be in the White House. He may run again in 4 years. We don't know. The Green Party is not going anywhere. I mean, it's going to be around. If you don't know how to access your government, try to contact your local Green Party or Socialist Party and say, who are the people I should talk to? But it's hard to motivate people between elections who only care about elections. But why do you care about elections? What issue is it that makes you want to be involved with Cornell's campaign or with any other campaign? And then how do you, in between elections, do it? I have a lot of faith in people. We're smart people, humans, and we can figure out how to get stuff done. So I would that's my answer, is there doesn't necessarily need to be an infrastructure. But, what was it Margaret Mead said? Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And it can be a very small group that can make a lot of changes. I remember in Santa Fe when we went to try to get a living wage for people. The first meetings we had about that were 10 or 12 people, and it grew from there because people saw the energy and they agreed with the principle. And the same thing with when we helped create a bus system back in the late 90s where there had never been any public transportation at all. There was one very corrupt taxi company that had ties to all the corrupt Democratic politicians, and we said this isn't right. And within like 5 years, there was a bus system in Santa Fe because a small group of people got together and made it happen.
Right. Absolutely. And one more time showing the map, just to remind people, you guys compared to Jill Stein, 6-7 years ago at this time, seemed to be ahead of where you were at that point. So there is a chance you could be on the ballot in almost all 50 states.
Yep. We're way ahead of where we were with Jill Stein's campaign in 2016. So, our tough ones are going to be New York and Georgia and Arizona. And we're really proving in Arizona that we're going to get it done. Georgia and New York are different beasts because, like I said, New York's can have 6 weeks starting, I think it's the second week of April to get it done. Illinois is another one. They've got only 90 days to get 25,000 signatures, but we did that in 2016. We turned in 54,000 signatures, even though we only needed 25 because there was an organized effort and a lot of enthusiasm. And I think we can do that in Georgia and New York. So everyone who's out there, please register to vote if you're not, and please go to that map at cornelwest4.us, click on your state and see how you can get involved.
And that's FOR, Cornel West, FOR.us. Thanks, Rick. We'll definitely stay in touch as more fuckery abounds, because I'm sure there will be. And well, not on your part, but on Democratic Party's establishment. Pennsylvania, that's one I'm looking at because they do not want the Green Party on the ballot in any of these states, but I don't think they want them in Pennsylvania for sure. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
Absolutely. You too. Let's hit some super chats. Got some other things to talk about too. Tony, $1.99. Thank you for your work. You're the best. Thank you, Tony. Venetia David, we got 10 pounds. Looking forward to the book, Jordan. Keep up the excellent work. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me tell you something. Sometimes I wish I was a fiction writer. Not that that's easier, but it is very, very difficult to on one end, write a story on, in my view, the biggest government cover-up of the 21st century, the Flint water cover-up, to make it not like a white paper, but make it interesting and make it flow and make it entertaining, while also going back through like 7 years of documents. So I'm like in writing mode, but also combing through documents mode, and it's a lot. But hopefully, I have an agent now, and we'll be pitching publishers after Labor Day. So hopefully, we will get a publisher, because I'm hoping, if there is a God, to get a book publisher and get this out next year. Justin was supposed to be on with us, but phone wasn't cooperating. He's also making efforts in the ballot access for Cornel West and the Green Party. $20. Thank you. Sorry, my phone wouldn't cooperate. Hopefully next time I can find solid Wi-Fi. In regards to polling, let's see Cornel's disapproval numbers. He will crush Biden and Trump. That is very important. Bernie was crushing Hillary, Trump, Biden, Trump, and I'm pretty sure Cornel West is going to just neuter both of them in terms of approval, disapproval. And I agreed with Rick. Don't take a lot of stock in these polls yet. Justin B, another $10. Cornell's Congress. That's one way we make a lasting effect. Thank you. Like I said, thank you. We got a couple more subscribers. So now we're over 150,000, which means we got to set our eyes bigger and better. So 200,000 and beyond. Tomorrow is September 1st. So as we've been covering extensively here, it looks like we are going to have a massive strike within 14 days. If everything goes the way I think it's going to go. I would like to be on the ground for that strike. That would be the auto workers, the United Auto Workers, as I covered yesterday. Our Canucks across the border might be going on strike as well. The auto workers in Canada, their contract ends 4 days after the auto workers here in America. But I need you. So if you're not yet a Status Coup member, please sign up today. We are, as far as I know, one of the only independent outlets that goes all over this country, covering important stories that the corporate media covers up. Let me repeat, covers up. We are one of the few outlets constantly on the ground, covering in the trenches all these important stories. I want to be on the picket lines, possibly in Michigan, Ohio, some other places where auto workers are going to be on strike. This is 150,000 workers that might be on strike. So even if it's 40 to 50,000 boots on the ground of those 150,000, that's a shit ton of people. And that would probably be the biggest strike we've had in decades. So we definitely want to be there. Please help us do it. $5 to $10 a month. We have no money from big banks, no money from the fossil fuckers, no money from big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, the military industrial complex, or any of the corporate ghouls purchasing the Democratic or Republican Party. We are built through you. So if it's within your means, please sign up today. We definitely need to grow more in our paid membership. YouTube subscribers are great, but our model is paid membership. So super important. Lewis was just on the ground in East Palestine. We still have some of those interviews we need to release. Of course, Tina's been down to Georgia twice within the last few months, covering Cop City. John Farina has been covering great stuff for us around New York, New Jersey, elsewhere. He and I are going to go back and cover the nurses' strike that's going on in New Jersey. They're going on a month strong. So we might do that next week. He's covering some stuff this weekend. So we got a lot going on, and you are the fine guys and girls that are helping us do it. So please continue signing up if you can. StatusCoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. Super helpful. That's all I got today. I will cut this up for social media also, but definitely get involved. That's CornelWest.us, CornelWest4.us. Did a video earlier on AOC, another really horrendous puff piece. So go check that out. Check out my video on the UAW and Canada might be going on strike as well. Am I forgetting anything, Colin?
No, or did you mention we also have a video coming out from a Cop City protest as well?
Oh, yes. We do have another video coming out from a Cop City protest. So that'll be tonight, I think, or tomorrow. I forget. Also, get your behind to our store, statuscoup.com/store. Have you gotten your United Corporations of America shirt yet? Have you gotten your Fossil Fuckers shirt? Have you gotten your capitalism shirt? Shout out to my wife who came up with that. Capitalism, C-O-P, Italism. Have you gotten your Poison States of America shirt? We got a lot of cool gear, new shirts, new designs in the
Stickers
store.
also.
Stickers also. So that's another great way to show your status pride and also help us get a couple more bucks in revenue. We'll probably do a members call next week for whoever asked. So stay tuned for that after Labor Day. So that's all we got. Do you sell the flag behind you? I really wish I could, but it is not our owned and operated flag. I shouldn't tell you where I got it because those motherfuckers, when I reached out to them saying, hey, all my viewers want to buy the flag, maybe we could do some kind of like, promo Status Coup and you could throw us a couple bucks for each flag you sell. They told me where to go shove it. It's Adbusters, even though I shouldn't tell you. Adbusters.com. You could get the flag. Maybe we'll design our own upside down to show the state of America with our own spin on the corporations. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow. And remember, statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Really, really helpful. Take care.